Hello, Anabella.
Hi,
Thank you for being on the podcast.
my pleasure.
All right, so this is really a first because I think you are the first younger person on the podcast, and I think it'll be the first time that somebody is interviewing me. I'm not sure. We may have had somebody interview me for something, but I'm going to tell everybody real quick about the story of you getting onto the podcast. Okay?
Yes.
All right. So I go to a boot camp, this workout boot camp across the street from my house at the club across the street. And Anabella's mother, Anna Karina, works out there with me. And one day we were all working out, and Anabella was also there working out. And it turns out that she's a fan of the podcast. And I thought that was super cool that she listens to the podcast and enjoys it, not just listens to it, but actually enjoys it and is super fascinated by the business. So we said, well, we could have her come by the office and she can maybe be on the intro of a podcast or she can say hi or something. But the more I thought about it, the more I think, why not have just an entire episode with Anabella on so that we could talk about how she's interested in this business and all that kind of stuff, because it is so fascinating, right? It's a fun, real estate is a fun thing. And I want to get your perspective. And then a good way to do that is for you to ask me questions. So let's start with, what are the things that interest you? What are the things right now? Because I know there's some TV shows that you like and things like that. So I'll let you share with everybody listening what it is that you have found that you like about this business from these different shows and podcasts and stuff.
Well, I like seeing things turn from ew, like you're disgusted, to wow. And I would really like to be in the shoes of a house flipper, so I could really see how it is being an actual flipper, not just from the perspective of the TV, and get my hands dirty.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, to see what it's really like, right? So do you think that what they show on the TV shows is very accurate for what it's like to be a real house flipper?
No, I know it's not just like a piece of cake. Okay, we're gonna remodel. I I know that it's a lot of work, a lot of sweat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you think they make it look more fun, all the fun aspects of it, but not the hard stuff. Do you ever wonder when you watch those shows where they get the deal from, like where they get that house from, the one that they're going to fix up?
No, I don't know where they get the best deals.
Hmm. So have you thought about those other parts of the business that come with it, besides just the fixing of the house and the selling it? Have you thought about some of those other parts of the business that are included in it? So because once you have it fixed up, you have to sell it, right?
Yes.
And all of that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, how did you become so successful in the flipping industry?
Okay, how do you be successful in the flipping industry? See, I'm so used to interviewing that I just was interviewing you. So we'll just switch it to you interviewing me. And how do we get successful can you read the question again?
How did you become so successful in the flipping industry?
How do we become so successful? I think it has to do with several things. And the key ones are having a mentor. So having somebody that can help you along the way that's been through what it's like to do what you're trying to do. Okay, so having that mentor to be there for whenever questions come up that you need answers to, and to be able to help out, because there are going to be situations that come up that you don't know how to deal with, and you have to have somebody there that can help you through and make the right decision based on experience. And another thing is just learning how to consistently find good house deals.
Yeah.
Because you can fix up houses and sell them, but if you're not making money when you're doing it, then it's not going to last very long because you're losing money. And so you have to be able to find good deals, and that requires becoming a good marketer if you want to do a lot of house deals.
Yeah. So how do you find a mentor and choose the right one?
Oh, good question. And she came up with these questions herself. So that's an awesome question. Okay, so to find the right mentor, this one is, I think, easier than a lot of people think. Okay, so there are different RIA groups, which stands for Real Estate Investment Association, in all the different cities and things like that. So San Antonio has several groups that meet monthly that have real estate investors go to them and they learn something every month. And you can meet people there that are doing house flipping deals. But then also today, with all the social media, you can find local house flippers that are doing things on social media and talking about the deals that they're doing on social media, or have podcasts like this one, right? And you can find those people. And the next step, once you find the people that are actually doing exactly what you want to do, is to build the relationship with them. But this is the part where a lot of people mess it up. This is the part where they don't know how to approach that person, and they don't know how to get the help from that person. Because the temptation can be just to go up to them and say, hey, can you help me? Can you teach me how to do this business? But what do you think? Do you think they have a lot of time to spend?
No.
Yeah, probably not. So they're pretty busy, and they have a lot of people asking them, can you help me in this business? And the feeling is, when somebody's asking somebody to help them in the business, the feeling is that it's going to be something where you've got to show them every single step, and you've got to walk them through everything. And mentors typically don't have the time for that. So the way to approach a mentor and have them want to work with you is to start doing the things in the business to show that you're going to do what it takes. So you're going to start looking for deals. You're going to start finding these deals that you think might be a deal. And you say, I found this house. It took a lot of looking, and I looked through hundreds of different houses, and I found this one where I think it could be a good deal. And then you take it to them and you ask them if they want to partner with you on trying to do the deal. If they can let you know if they think it's a good deal, and then they can try to help you do that deal together. And so that you can both profit, and then you can learn how. And that's the best way to build a relationship, is to bring them something that they're looking for, which is another deal, and being willing to split the profits or do something where they do the deal, but just show you how they do it. And that's how you get to become somebody that's being mentored by someone you want to be mentored by.
What is the most effective way to get good deals on houses to flip? Do you use the MLS, lead propeller, or do you drive for dollars?
Wow. These are really good questions. All right. So we do several things, and the main one has always been from our lead propeller website. It's generating most of our deals for our house flipping business. So our website does generate those leads from people looking to sell their house fast. They come to the website and submit their information about the house that they want to sell. And we set up an appointment to go look at that house and figure out how much we can pay for it. And we make them an offer on it. So that's one way where we get most of our leads and deals from. We also do, Melissa is also now having the team drive for dollars, getting back into doing that, driving for dollars, and then mailing the owner of those homes, the owners of those homes, letters asking if they can buy the house. And that works really well too. And so she's also doing that. So she's doing more than one thing. And typically, I say that it's best to do about 3 things and try to be the best at those 3 things to get deals. So we do the online with the website, and then driving for dollars. And then there's other lists and things like that too, like probate mailings, which is when somebody dies, then they might have a house that the family, the remaining family might want to sell. And so that's another way to do it.
So what is your best advice for first-time flippers?
The best advice for first-time flippers. The best advice is to buy right, to buy the house right. So you make your money when you buy the house. Okay, and what that means is you have to buy low. And the temptation is, when you're trying to find that first deal for your house flip, you just want to do a deal so bad. You're just so excited to do a deal that you try to make any house that you look at become that deal. You want it to be a deal, even if it's not. And so a deal is determined by whether the numbers make sense. Okay, and you have to be able to buy it low enough. And for a long time, I think we're paying a little bit more now, but for a long time, and I think for new people should still try to stick to this formula. But if the house is going to be worth $200,000, then you want to buy it for 70% of that, and then subtract the cost that it's going to take to repair the house up to a sellable condition. Okay, so in this example, what is it? $140,000 is 70% of 200,000. So you want to buy it for $140,000 minus the cost of repair. So if you determine it's going to cost $40,000 to fix up the house, then you have 140 minus the 40. So you need to buy it for $100,000. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
And that's the thing. You're going to be tempted, though. You're going to see a house like that with those numbers, and maybe the asking price is 140. And you're going to say, whoa, well, I mean, if I bought it for 140 and I put $40,000 to repair it, I still only am into it for 180,000, and I can sell it for 200. That means I can make $20,000, right? But there's also other fees involved, like you have to sell the house and pay commission, and you have other costs that come up. You have holding costs, you have costs for loans, you have all kinds of costs that come up, surprises in the fix-up. You might find out that there's a problem that you didn't know about with the house. And so all of a sudden you're going to lose money. Instead of make 20,000, you could lose 20,000. But if you stick to those numbers, where in that case, it would be 140 minus 40, which would be 100,000. So they're asking 140, you would want to offer less than 100,000. So you might go and say, I'll pay you $95,000 for that, and I'll close it next week. And then if you can get it for that, or if they negotiate and you have to stay under the 100,000, then you got a really good deal. And so that's the biggest piece of advice, because you're going to be tempted, even if it's 110 or 120, you're going to be tempted to try to make it work. And you have to be careful, because especially when you're new, those rehab costs and fixing the house up can get high. You can spend a lot more than you planned on, and then you might not make money.
What do you want your legacy to be?
That's a good question. Legacy. So like I said, these are not prepared. I didn't know what she was going to ask me. So my legacy, I think the legacy is really just giving back for other people to be able to find freedom, in their lives and do things that they like to do, and be there to not miss anything with their family, to be able to be at all the, the sports games and practices, and to be able to go to all the different events and things like that for their family, and just whatever they want to do in their community, and have the time and the resources to be able to give back themselves. And so that's what I want the legacy to be, is for people to learn how to get into this business. But also more and more, I'm moving to this point where I want to help people be able to see that being super busy and getting into this business and trying to do a ton of deals isn't really what most of us want. But a lot of us fall into this trap where we get into the business and we're making good money flipping houses. We feel like we want to flip more and more and more houses. But really, there's a smarter way to do it that gives you the lifestyle that you really want. And flipping more and more houses really isn't the thing that's going to bring you what you want. And I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it's not about flipping 200 houses in a year. That's not, for most people, that's not really what we want to do. And so it's finding that balance of like the fun, but getting the freedom and using that freedom and using that time in your life to do the things that you really want to do.
Yeah. How do you build a proper team?
Say that again?
How do you build a proper team? A
proper team. These are like the best questions I think I've ever heard on a podcast. All right, so how to build a proper team. To build a proper team, you have to know who you need on the team. And once you know who you need on the team, you need to know to find out who the right people are for those different positions. And a typical real estate investing team, it consists of the owner, and most of us start out being in all these different positions ourselves as the owner of the company. And Melissa and I did this with me and her doing all the positions in the company. But really what you need as a team for a house flipping business, if you don't want to do everything yourself over time, the goal should be to have other people helping you on the team. But the typical team these days that people have in successful flipping businesses are the lead intake person, so like a lead manager. So whenever you do marketing, you have those calls coming in, or the website submissions of the leads of people wanting to sell houses. So you need somebody to take those calls and be super friendly, be really friendly with the people that they're talking to, because they want to build what's called rapport. So they're building rapport, good rapport, which means that the people like you, so that seller wanting to sell the house likes you, because they typically will sell to somebody they like, even if they're not offering as much, than somebody that's offering more, but they don't like them as much. And so that's the type of person that you want for lead intake. Okay, so that's one person, they get the lead. And then you have acquisitions. Then you have an acquisitions person. What that means is that's a person that goes to the house and they look at the house and they figure out how much repairs are needed. And then they talk with the seller and they continue to build rapport because they're going to make an offer to the seller to buy the house. And so that person typically is more of a salesperson type person. So somebody more with that, you know, they're friendly and they can build rapport and they're approachable, but at the same time, they're not afraid to close. They're not afraid to ask for somebody to sell them the house. Okay, and so that's the type of person that you want for an acquisitions person on your team. Now, the next person that you have, depending on what you do, if you're doing flips where you're doing the rehabs, where you have a you know, construction crew contractor doing the fix up of the house, you probably want a rehab manager, you know, somebody that's kind of the project manager that goes around and makes sure that the different rehabs are going right, that everything's going well. If there's something that comes up, a surprise, they go and deal with it. They figure out what to do. And they're just making sure that all the rehabs are happening and going fast and being done right. And so you have somebody like that. And that's somebody with construction experience or, you know, is just more, you know, about project management. They're able to keep things moving and make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so that's who you have for that. Now, the next person that you have is a dispositions person. Now, typically, if you're wholesaling, and do you know what wholesaling is? Okay. So if you're wholesaling, you typically have somebody that's working with all of your buyers, all your other investors that you know, and so that they can take whatever wholesale deals you have and try to sell it to them. And so you have somebody also that is somewhat of a salesperson because they're really trying to get top dollar for what you're selling. They're trying to get as much as they can by selling what you're selling for as much as you can as a wholesale house. If you're doing mostly rehabbing where you're selling to an end buyer that's going to live in the house, that's typically somebody like a realtor that you have working with you that will list your deals for you and find the buyer and have it done that way. And so that's what you have there. So as you build the team and you want to take yourself more out of the day-to-day, making sure everybody's doing everything right and everything's working out, you typically will have somebody that you hire as a COO. So it's a chief operating officer. And that's somebody that will then do all of that and do that kind of management for you so that you're more of the visionary person that's you know, looking forward. You're looking to see how to grow the business and do these different things. And if that fits your personality and that's what you want to do, then that's a good path to go to grow the business up. And I don't know that I missed anything. I mean, if you're doing marketing to get deals, you might hire somebody separately to handle marketing. But I think a lot of times as real estate investors, a lot of us as visionaries like to do the different marketing tactics and handle some of that marketing ourselves or stay on top of it because it's such a huge expense. A lot of real estate investors that are doing a lot of deals are spending over $100,000, $200,000 a year just on marketing. And so they're managing that a lot of times themselves, or at least overseeing it very closely because, you know, it's such a big expense, a big investment.
Even though you studied computer science in college, how did you get into flipping?
Man, you are good. All right. So I studied computer science and I have that degree in computer science, and I was working for a company, a defense contractor for the Air Force. And I was doing software, but it was all the same kind of software. Like I was just creating these scripts that were doing basically the same thing. So I was bored. I was just really bored. I wasn't challenged at all. And while I was doing that, my dad had started flipping houses. So he was flipping houses and he was having so much fun. And he was telling me about all these houses he was buying and all the deals he was doing. And he was just super excited. You know, he just loved every single day, like getting up and going to do more deals and look at, check on the rehabs that he was doing and the ones he was selling. And he was having so much fun. And I said, wow, that's what I want to do. You know, I don't want to be in this office all day long. I want to be out there doing that kind of stuff. And so we started studying and learning how to do that and spent the evenings and weekends starting to do marketing. And it was very scary to put my phone number out there on signs and stuff like that, because we actually used bandit signs, which was one of the first things that we did. Do you know what bandit signs are?
Yes.
Okay. A lot of times those are illegal, so you have to be careful. You have to get a permit or something. But so we put the signs out, and then the phone would ring. And I was super scared to get those first phone calls. And that first phone call I ever got, I don't know if you know the story, but the phone rang and it was a number I didn't recognize. So I was like, it must be from our signs that say we buy houses. And I got so nervous that I threw the phone to Melissa. She had to answer the phone. And then so she was fumbling along and answering asking questions. And then after she was done, we both realized that we never got the address of the house that they were selling. And so we had all this information, but we didn't have the most important one, I think, which was the address of the house. So we had to call back. But that just goes to show you that in order to get successful, you have to go through these things where you make these kinds of mistakes. Everybody does. And if you're trying to make sure that you're getting everything lined up in a way where you're not going to make those mistakes, you're never going to get started. So it's a matter of facing your fears, doing the stuff, and not worrying about what could happen. Just take the next step, and whenever it happens, deal with it. And then laugh about it, because even though it was like nervous and scary, we laughed about it, right? Because who cares at the end of the day? Like, you want to have fun, and you're going to make mistakes, and then you can, know that later you'll be telling people that story and you'll be laughing about it too. So it was a lot of fun. But that's how I went from being a software developer to getting into house flipping. It's because of just the freedom, like this whole thing of like, if I work really hard, I can do even better. I don't have to wait for somebody to give me a raise. I don't have to wait for this or this other thing. It's all up to me. Like, it's on me. I can do, like, I'm in charge of what I'm doing. So I can have a lot of fun. It's like I can learn this stuff and I can do this. I don't have to wait. I don't have to get approval by my boss to work on a different project. So that's what really got me excited about it.
Yeah. What is the most important lesson you have learned throughout the years?
What was the most important lesson I ever learned?
Yes, sir.
Most important lesson. That's a good question. Most important lesson. I think one of the most important, if not the most important, is to not make assumptions. I should probably elaborate. So this is in a lot of different areas. Okay, so don't make assumptions, because when we first started marketing to people to buy their house, saying that we buy houses and we pay cash and all that kind of stuff, I think it's tempting to make an assumption that why would people want to sell to me at such a low price?
Yeah.
You can make assumptions that, oh, they must be stupid if they're going to sell to me at that low price. And then you start thinking, well, I don't want to take advantage of people. I don't want to, buy this house for really cheap and feel like I stole this house from somebody. And so you're making assumptions based on your beliefs. But really, the fact of the matter is, after doing this business for a while, I've learned that people have their own situations, and different things matter to different people. And so most of the houses that we buy from people, they are super thrilled to be able to sell their house quickly and be done with their problem. And they know that they could get more for it if they did something else, but they don't want to do that something else. They don't want to have to hire contractors. They don't want to have to wait 3 or 4 or 5 months. And they're perfectly happy to sell it very quickly. So it's very important not to make assumptions for people about why they might want to sell or how much they would sell for, because we really could never know what they're thinking or what they might do. And so not having assumptions. Yeah.
So, what was your hardest and easiest flip?
Hardest and easiest. Are you talking about like where we actually fixed the house up and sold it, or we just got a deal and we sold the deal?
When you just got the deal and sold the deal.
Okay,
well,
so
both.
Okay, both. Okay, I'll try. Yeah, that's good. Good idea. I think the easiest, the one that comes to mind first is I got a call for a house. Actually, I think I had gotten a call like a couple of days before from somebody saying, no, okay, let me get this straight because it's been a long time. Okay, so no, somebody called and they said, hey, I've got this house for sale for $20,000 or something like that. And it's in this really bad part of town, this really rough area, very dangerous area. And I was thinking immediately, oh, I don't buy over there. I don't want to deal with that. But then I remembered I had talked to somebody a couple of days before that was saying that they buy everywhere, and I think including that area. And so I said, I might want it. Hold on 1 minute. Let me make a call real quick. And so then I called this guy that I talked to the days before, a couple of days before, and I said, hey, I just found out about this house. I can get it for this much. Would you be interested in it? And he actually told me that he was sitting in front of that house. Like he was at the house next door, but like parked in front of this one. And I think he was doing something with the other one. And he said, yeah, I'll take it. And so all I had to do, I put the two guys together. And thinking about it now, I would have put it under contract first and then sold it to him, signed a contract. But I didn't even have to do that in this case. I just said, look, if I just tell you directly who's selling it and you can buy it, just send me a check afterwards. And then I told the guy that was selling the house to do the same thing, and they both agreed. And so they did the deal, and I didn't even have to do anything. And then after they closed it, they both mailed me a check. And so I got two checks, and I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to sign any contract. I didn't have to go anywhere. It was just a couple phone calls.
Wow.
And how cool is that? So that was one fun deal. And it was interesting how that worked out, right? That he was like sitting at that house already. He didn't have to drive over there or anything. He was already there. So that was crazy. And then I think the hardest one, for me, the hardest one was probably this house where we could have sold the house for maybe $50,000 the way it was. We could have made $50,000 just by buying it and then selling it again because it was clean, it was livable. Somebody could have lived in it the way it was, and we could have made $50,000. But I looked at how much it would cost to rehab, and I said, well, let's fix it up, and we can make $90,000, or maybe even $100,000. And so that sounded great, right? So I started fixing it up. But I had problems with the contractor not showing up, and we were doing a bunch of other houses. And next thing you know, it had been a whole year. It took us a year, I think, to finish this house or close to it. And then it took a long time to sell too. And we had to lower the price. And I think at the end of the day, I think we broke even. I think we made what we spent.
Wow.
On that house. So instead of making 90,000 or 100,000 or even 50, if we just sold it when we first bought it, we didn't make anything. And we spent that whole year of headache, hassles, and problems. So for me, that one was the most stressful and the most painful, but at least we didn't lose money.
Yeah, that's crazy. What are some books that you recommend other than your book?
Well, I think if you haven't read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that's definitely a good book to read. And then some other books. I think, Brandon Turner and Bigger Pockets put out some good books, some really good books on different topics. So depending on what kind of part of real estate investing you're interested in, they have a book for you, and I highly recommend their books. And then let me see other books. I think being that marketing is such an important part of this business, that a book like Guerrilla Marketing, there's a book called Guerrilla Marketing, is good to read. And then a book about systems. So there's a book called E-Myth. It's called E-Myth. And I think they have like Revisited or something. It's like updated version of that book, but that's a good book about systems, about when you do parts of your business, you document how you did it. And so that next time, if you make improvements, you can improve on your system of how you do something. Because if you're just keeping it all in your head, you're the only person that knows how to do it, right? But if you document it, then other people can do it too that you hire. And you can always make sure that you're doing the best way to do it, because you learn things. Each time you do it, it could be different. You could come across a different problem and you figure out how to solve the problem. But then you might not face that problem again for 4 or 5 years. And then you're back to going, oh man, what did I do last time? Now I have to figure it out again. But if you had documented it, you already knew what the best answer was.
Yeah.
And so that's a good good way to go about the business too.
Thank you so much for those amazing answers and for having me in your podcast.
Oh, thank you, Anabella. Do you have anything else that you would like to say for everybody listening, or what you might be doing over the next several years to try to get into the business?
Well, like I said, I really want to be in the flipping industry. So I'm excited.
Oh, cool. Well, it's really awesome that you're getting out there and you were willing to be on the podcast, and super excited about it. And I just love having you on. And you're actually right now sitting in another office over here, and you guys live in a house that's right behind our office. So it's pretty interesting, but pretty close to it. So if you, I know you guys are going to be moving soon, but you should keep in touch, because I would like to have you back on, as you progress in the business. If you do a first deal or something like that, definitely let us know, and so we could have you back on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me in your podcast.
Oh,
It was an
thanks.
amazing experience.
Awesome. All right. Well, have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you later.
Bye.